I'm able to still go through this process.
Raising brave children, proud immigrant mom, proud to the immigrant mom. Brave woman, raising children, proud to the immigrant mom, proud to the immigrant mom. Brave woman.
I'm able to still go through this process.
Brave woman, raising brave children, proud to the immigrant mom, proud to the immigrant mom. Brave woman, raising brave children, proud to the immigrant mom, proud to the immigrant mom. Brave woman.
Hello, guys. Happy Thursday. How's everyone doing? It's the Immigrant Mom Thursday. How are you all? All right, people are asking for the link. Let me just welcome everybody here before we go about sharing. Hi, guys. Welcome to the Immigrant Mom Show. This is your host, Extel Mbaacha. It's been 2 Thursdays since we've been here, and I am super pleased and happy to be back on because I know today will be an interesting and warm conversation. You know the drill. Once you join, please let me know where you are watching from and be generous. Go ahead and share this link with as many people, with groups, with your friends, so people can join us because there's always something that we can learn. So sit back and enjoy this music while I share and send the link out to the millions of people who are asking me for the link so many more people can join us and we can get the party started.
Everybody's gonna win. Yeah. If only you just believe, yeah.
Go on, give myself last time.
Yeah. Don't you worry about it, cause if you you can't get it if you strive. You can't be just what you want if you
See.
You can dream of it all. Nothing is too small. Nothing is too big. We are there. We are there. Oh, we are there. We are there. We are there. Oh, we are there. Yeah. What nice I see, yeah. Oh, don't you
You guys know the drill. Once you join, please drop a comment. Let me know who is joining. Let me know where you're watching from. Would love to acknowledge you.
just keep on pushing if it's
Can you guys believe another Thursday? Like 2 weeks have come and passed. Hi, Claudette. Thank you. You're the first. See, when people shout out, I'm always so excited because it feels like I'm having a one-on-one conversation. So please drop in the comments that you're here. I'd like to know that you are here so I can acknowledge you. All right. Well, guys, let us get started. So, we might as well just get started. That way we can cover as much ground. Hopefully more people will join us as we go. I can see the numbers are going up. Hi, Sophie. T-Town in the building. Sparkish is here. Hi, girlfriend. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you to everybody who's here. You guys, I really do appreciate that you make it a point to join me on this Immigrant Mom show, because it only makes sense if there are people to listen to the stories that I shared on this platform. And the entire notion is that we can learn from another person's story. We can see that we're not the only people, or we're not the only ones going through what we go through when you hear another person recount from their experience. Hi, Tolani Decor, the biggest let me not get started. Tolani is watching from Dallas. Thank you so much for joining. Let's take some time. I think, for whatever reason, the numbers are fluctuating. And the only reason why I want more people in the room is so that they can hear the entire story before I get started. So please, if you haven't, this is good time to tag your friends that would love to, be a part of today's show, to hear Rache's story. And once you get here, please let me know that you are here so I can give you a shout out and acknowledge you. Well, guys, if this is your first time here watching this show, my name is Ixtel Mbaacha. I am the founder of the Immigrant Mom organization. It is an organization of moms, all women raising children in a country or a culture that they did not grow up in. Surprisingly, in 2018, I just thought to myself, how come there is no organization that is helping women like myself who are raising children? I just had a baby in a country I did not grow up in. Believe it or not, part of parenting is heavily reliant on the culture of the place in which that child is raised. So we would have to know, as immigrant mothers, certain aspects of this culture to be better parents, to provide a solid base, a solid foundation for our children. Ignorance is never an excuse when destiny is concerned. I feel like that's a very strong word that someone can take with them. Ignorance is not an excuse when destiny is concerned. When you get to the end of the road and the reason for why you could not accomplish what you had to accomplish is an excuse, it really doesn't matter. And so we are equipping ourselves not to have excuses for the sake of our children. We want to make sure that they have the scholarships that they need. We want to make sure that they get into the schools that they need to get into. We want to make sure that we equip them to use their voices. We want to make sure that we are ahead of the game with their phones and the access that they have to the internet and things that maybe a lot of us did not experience as we grew up. The times have changed, the seasons have changed, the countries have changed, the culture has changed. And that is why there is the Immigrant Mom. So if you are an immigrant mom and you're not a part of the group, please join us. We ask a lot of questions. We have a good time. We have events that come up every now and then. We have the Immigrant Mom show, like what we have going on right now, every other Thursday, where we have a guest that shares their story. It does not have to be something, grandiose or anything that it could just be a chit chat. Like, what did you go through? What was your experience when you came to the country that you're in, and how did you overcome those hurdles? And the point is to ensure that another mom can learn from your experience. All right, guys, I have said so much, and I feel like there is still a lot more to be said, just not from me, but from the beautiful lady who is our guest today that is going to share her story with us. And as our usual tradition, we have an intro video that we will watch about her and then bring her on stage to let her tell us about her story. All right, so let's. Let me see if everybody can see this.
Who is Rache Tripple?
Rache Tripple is just Rachel, which is the average girl out here trying to make ends meet and do what we do every day. What is something most people do not know? I am actually a homebody. I love being at home. Contrary to what everybody sees on social media, I'm always partying, I'm out emceeing and doing a lot of things. But what I enjoy most is staying home, having chill time, watching movies with friends.
Rachel Ekinde, also known as Rache Tripple, is the CEO and founder of Triple Pieces and Rache Tripple Production and Entertainment LLC, a business conglomerate with factions in the entertainment and fashion industry. Rache is also a corporate finance specialist at a reputable company in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. The woman with an infectious smile. The warmth in her smile is evident. She brightens up her circle and the world of so many. She is an immigrant who was originally from the beautiful country of Cameroon, a mom to Blue, and a wife. Behind that beautiful smile are stories of life experiences. And so we asked Rache to tell us about one thing she overcame that she did not think she could.
I have been unknown due to the thing of the past because I live by the day. So that is one thing I have totally gotten over. So the fear of the unknown would be something I was afraid to overcome, which I believe I have or slowly is overcoming.
Uncertainty is certain, and we must make the most of what's in our control while wishing the best for things we cannot control. A woman of vision, building an empire in the US and internationally, who has had dreams fulfilled and others yet to be fulfilled. We asked her to finish up this statement. Never ever did I.
Never ever in my wildest dreams did I think I would be getting involved with lots and lots of platforms like I am today. I love to talk, but I didn't think it'd take me to a lot of platforms I've found myself on. So that's one of the things I am still used to.
Today, with no topic out of bounds, we take a sneak peek into the life and story of Rache Tripple. Grab a cup of something and join me.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Now you see why I needed those videos. And you see
Oh my goodness. What?
my best
That
part of
was
watching
amazing.
is watching the reaction when I can see
Oh
your
my
face
goodness.
behind.
I am flawed.
Well, thank you
Wow.
so much for
Okay.
joining us. I I am I'm happy, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to your story. First thing, why triple? What's the inspiration? Like tell me, how did you come about the name Triple? Is it Rache? Is it Rach Triple? Where's that
It's
from?
Rache Tripple. The full name is Rachel, but I just thought Rach made sense. And I used to have this whole phase where I did a whole, you know how you double dare? I had a triple threat phase, which I loved. So I figured, okay, why not tag it along with my name? And that's how that came about. So it's Rach.
And it has stuck really beautifully. Like, you say Rach, and I feel like Rachie kind of is like my own. That's how I'll call you, Rachie Triple. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yes.
So thank you so
Mhm.
much. We're excited. We want to hear your story. And we know that there's a lot that you can impart with us or share with us today. And the first thing that I want us to get started with is this uncertainty that you talked about. Can you tell me a little more about how that has impacted your motherhood journey? Let's start with Blue. Let's start with that journey and how it has been.
Okay. I think you're lagging a little. I'm sure we can manage.
Yeah, for some reason. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. And I got the question. um,
Okay.
as far as uncertainty, I believe that comes with, I'm not sure of everyone else. I've always been not, it took a while for me to be a mom, but I believe I had exercised that most of my life. Prior to having Blue, I always asked myself why I was given so many goddaughters. I have, as of now, I probably have five goddaughters. And that was way before I even thought of having children. And it always baffled me how, because of course, being named a godmother is almost like a mom, because what that in African tradition, what that means is if anything happens or for any reason, knock on wood, you're technically that child's mother. So it took a lot for people to actually entrust you with the kids. And a lot of people entrusted me with being a godmother to your children. So I could say I had gotten prepped, but of course, there were always uncertainties, like it would be with most women. I'd never had a child, so I obviously did not know a lot that would come with your own child. So
Right.
it took a lot of learning initially, a lot of diaper changes, which I didn't expect to be the way it was, as gruesome as it looked.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
yeah, that's pretty much the uncertainty. But I believe that's in the past because Bruce six and it
Yeah.
took this long to get a hang of that and to understand that, you know what? And if you know me, I live in the moment.
Mhm,
And that ties with every phase and every part
mhm,
of my life. So uncertainties are a
mhm.
thing of the past at this point.
Well, I felt like, that question was more like a middle question. We got right into it before starting out from the corner and getting into the
Yep.
middle. So maybe let's start in here. What has it been for you as maybe the network is
I know it's
horrible.
lagging a little.
Yeah, the network has a problem. Give me 1 second. Let me see if um
Sure, no problem.
I could do
I'm
something to
here.
make it better. Can you hear me at all?
I do hear you, yes.
Yeah, you're phasing in and out, so I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
You're frozen.
Oh my
I'm not
goodness.
sure. I can hear you, but it's in and out.
You want me to go in to get out and come back in? Because I can certainly do that.
Yeah, let's try that. Let's try that for a second. Guys, just hang on a minute. Let's try to figure out this technical difficulty.
Yes, my name is Teniola.
you falling, you just believe. Yeah, get myself in last.
All right, I think that we are back. Hopefully, is this better? Hi, Rach. Can you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you fine. Yeah, I can hear you
Okay,
perfectly.
awesome. I feel like it's better.
Can you hear me now better?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. All right, guys. Apologies for that. When we are dealing with technology, we expect the unexpected. But let's carry on from where we ended. I just said, the first question about certainty was like starting in the middle. So let's go right to like the beginning and walk our way to the middle one, like we should. Where are
Okay.
you from? And how long have you been here? And what was it like for you as an immigrant lady before becoming that immigrant mom? So pretty much your story.
Well, I'm sure most of the viewers are from Cameroon, but for those who are not international viewers, I'm from Cameroon, originally in West Africa, West Central Africa. I currently reside in Dallas, Texas. And I have been in the US, I'm not even sure at this point, long enough. And I've spent most of that time here in Texas, in Dallas specifically. I first got here in the East Coast, the Maryland area, and I moved out here 5 years after I got here. But this has been home. This has been home for quite a while. So Dallas, Texas is where I am.
Mhm.
And as far as starting out as an immigrant, just like every other immigrant, the struggles, you're coming from a third world country and you're forced to integrate into a first world country. And integration is not necessarily just sitting at home and chilling and waiting for you to figure out the space. You're
Right.
getting in and figuring out how to live and how to fend for yourself and go to school and do all that stuff. So you're basically thrown into the system and you literally have to figure it out and make it
Right.
work for you.
Right.
And
And
in
this
most cases,
system,
you make it work for you and people who you left behind.
right.
Yeah,
This
that is.
this system has swallowed some people up, quite honestly. Not everybody can, sit across the table and say what you just said because they're either swallowed somewhere in jail, they didn't make it, they couldn't
Mhm,
make it.
mhm.
What do you think was what helped you or kept you fighting? Maybe you were under the water and now above the water, have a breather, and you're able to do a lot of great things. What was it about you that helped you?
I've always come from a very solid family unit, both at the time here and back home. So keeping in touch kept me grounded. You know, just talking to family, they would pretty much keep you in line without necessarily being in your face. Just through conversation, you may remember one or two things, and it might juggle why you're here, or make you remember why you actually came all the way here, and it pushes you forward in ways that they themselves probably don't even realize.
Hmm.
So for me, that was an intricate part of my journey. That push from a very solid family unit.
Hmm. And I always say that it's whoever picks you up from the airport that would determine, not all the time, but majority of the time, the people that you fall into their hands, I'm
Mhm.
using that very casually, would determine how far you go. So let's say a young lady just walked through the airport today, Rachie, what will you tell her based on your experience with everything that you know?
First off, I wouldn't be selfish because I want her to skip out on all the phases that stalled me.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you can relate to this. It ties in with what I said earlier, where you're thrown into things and you have to figure it out. I don't believe in anybody coming after so many people being thrown into things to figure it out. It's up to
Right.
us to hopefully steer them toward the right direction and try to make them avoid going through. Of course, they're going to go through huddles. That's expected. That's
Hmm.
part of life. But try to push them forward where they don't have to go through as many hurdles as we or the people prior to them had to go through. So what I would
Right.
tell this person, a young lady or a young gentleman, is one, just jump in and first off figure out what you think you can do. Put together what you actually know you can do, tie both
Mhm.
together, and do some research as far as school. It could be
Mhm.
anything. I'm a strong advocate of going to school through the whole process. But after living here for so long, you start realizing that there are a lot of other options
Right.
that supersede what we were taught back home, where we were taught the system where it's like you do this and do this and do this. And it's like you go through a whole different phases and you get to a plateau, which is most likely, university, you graduate, and then obviously you might not even get work.
Right.
So here is it's structured a little differently. When you've been here long enough, the different facets of success. So I would pretty much lay out those different ideas and different things you may do. Nowadays, there's so many things you can do that need you to go through the whole process, even though it's
Right.
always recommended to do that. But why not try to do the things that would get you started in the right way, get you
Mhm.
into a great financial situation, and
Mhm.
then you can continue on with the phases that you're familiar with as far as how you grew up. That's what I would tell somebody
Advice.
who's
Right.
starting to.
And this is the reason why I asked this question, is so that people can see that it might look rosy today, but does not mean that it started rosy, because we all have a story. I have told my story on this platform about how homeless I was, going from house to house when I just moved to America. Because after 2 weeks, people tend to get tired and
Yeah.
they're saying, out of my house. The
Yeah.
people who were so welcoming, who
Get
were
a
so
job, do
nice and
something.
sweet, they're like, out of my house. You talked about huddles, and I want you to be a little specific. I know there could be more than one. What is one of those huddles that you endured on
Well,
this journey?
I didn't personally endure as much, but I know stories of friends who came here to different, you know, means, and some are not as straightforward as most. So you have to go through processes with immigration. You have to, in the process of doing that, you have to get documentations in order. Um, and then you have to present these things, and you have to look for background information to actually get a decent job. Things like that come to play, and those are things that you're not necessarily told prior to getting here you
Right.
know so you have to go through those huddles of even starting to be gainfully employed. And then when you become gainfully employed, if you're not lucky enough to work close to home, you have to figure out how you're getting to and from that job, which would most likely come with raising funds to purchase a car, or in certain regions, like I started with buses in the East
Mm.
Coast, like most people at the time.
Right.
But there's some cities that don't have access to that. So you'd have to figure out how to get transportation to and from work. And you actually need the job because you need money. Like you
Right.
said, people get tired of you and you have to start paying for things. So those are just some of the basic um, initial hurdles most people
Yeah.
face, and I did as well. So
Right. Let's dive into motherhood. Let's talk about motherhood. I know we touched a little bit about uncertainty, and that, motherhood is beautiful, but it's also that area of our lives where we are the most vulnerable. We
mhm,
are constantly learning. We are hoping, that at the end of it all, if at all there is an end, we should have that pat on our backs that we did a great job for those little ones. What
mhm.
is it that you know now about motherhood that you wish you knew early on?
I wish I knew all the unexpected because kids come with a lot of that. There are things that just pop up and you have to know how to handle it on your feet. There are nights when you have to wake up at 3 a.m. and you're at the emergency room with a kid. And, those are things that have no manual. You have to
Mhm.
pick up and figure out how to deal with it. So again, even though I would say It may be things that I would have loved to know before, but I used to say that, but now I don't think like that anymore because I believe those things that you go through with motherhood and all the difficulties that you endure while you're on this motherhood journey are part of what actually grooms you as a person in the long run.
Right.
So I embrace all of them, even though most of them may be difficult. It is not an easy job, I'll tell you that. But
Right.
I always believe all the everything else, everything that comes with you, everything in motherhood is a teaching. Every moment that is difficult is a teaching moment. And if you pay attention to it, it's going to be a teaching moment for both you and the child if you know how to handle
Right.
it well.
Right.
So that's
Right.
pretty much how I look at all the difficulties that come with motherhood.
And it's interesting that you say that because, with me answering that question, I would say one thing that I wish I knew is, this child is not going to break for whatever reason. I got into motherhood thinking, oh, my child is so fragile. I cannot even wear their clothes. They wouldn't make it past the day. Like her little scream or his little scream will send me into so much anxiety. And,
Hmm.
sometimes I look at them even now and I'm thinking, who would have thought that you would have made it this far? Just the fear of losing something so precious. It's something that, really held me bound. And I feel like, looking back, I'll tell a new mom, they'll make it, they'll be fine. Don't be too hard on yourself. Fear sometimes could be really, crippling. So, I mean, I really appreciate your point of view about expecting the unexpected because, again, it's
Yes.
nights in the
Yes.
emergency room and, things like that. Let's talk about your career. You are working in corporate and you're running a business.
Hmm.
Or, tell us a little bit about what that's like.
It can be a handful, just like you say it.
Mhm. So
My
you are a corporate finance specialist. What's that about for those who don't know what's
it's
your
in
day to day?
mortgages. We run finances, right? Finances on homes and things like that. But it's all tied to mortgage and finance, broad
Okay.
basis finance, but it's mortgage.
So at what
So
point
my
did you look at all of that and say, I'll get into shoes?
right? Well, I have been in corporate for I'm not sure how long, since like 2008, I believe. So I've been in the space for so long where I mean anybody who's in that space would tell you after a while there's no way you start thinking outside the box, you start looking for things outside of just getting up every day and going to the office and back. So initially, that's what got me to start looking around and getting a feel of things. I'd always known I would do something. I'd always known I would sell something or have a business. I just didn't know what exactly would be what I'd carry. So as far as the shoes or me pinpointing on shoes, I started researching things that sold because you're not going to start a business or start selling something that's not in the market or that's not in demand. So I started looking at things that are currently hip.
Mhm.
And obviously, we watch a lot of TV, we go to things, and I realized there was a trend, and there were a lot of celebrities sporting comfort wear. I'm saying pretty much like 3 to 4 years back, there was this new thing where you put on a suit and you throw on, some not loafers, but sneakers, dress sneakers. I started seeing a lot of that and it looked really good. And I'm saying to myself, well, for the longest time, women, especially women, had always thought, okay, to dress up meant putting on heels to step it up. But I'm seeing a lot of women going to dinner in a dress and sneakers and it's working out. That made me look further into it because it was just a no-brainer. This is comfort and chic put together, and that's literally what I wanted. So when I found the production team that I work with in Italy, I saw the samples and we did some drafting and little drafts. I looked at what they did and I'm like, okay, this is exactly like they'll tell you samples of what they could do and then they give you options to design what you want. And we worked back and forth and it just made sense. It made sense One, because all of my sneakers, if not all, most of my sneakers are leather, Italian leather, and just the fact that it's Italian leather, it makes it dressy on its own. So whatever you put on with my tennis shoes, it goes with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people who purchased it have actually realized that because they put it on just like I intended them to put on. And that's pretty much how I came about doing that. And
You know, it's
yeah.
amazing. And you sit down there and you say everything you say. It sounds so easy.
Mhm,
But like someone who owns a business, I know that there is no
mhm,
ease in that.
mm-mm, mm-mm,
What excuses did you trash in order to bring this dream into reality? And this is why I asked the question so we can give more context to it.
mhm,
A lot of people have dreams on their inside.
mhm,
Immigrants like you and I, brilliant ideas,
mhm,
just saying a number of things like, oh, well, Rach, you're able to do that because you had enough money in your account. Or Rach, you're able to do that because you were born to an influential family. Or Rach, you're able to do that because you married X and Y and Z. Rach, you're able to do that because,
mhm,
and all of this giving excuses. So
mhm,
let me ask you directly, because I know we all have excuses. We just
mhm,
choose sometimes to trash them and go
mhm,
forward. What
mhm.
excuses did you kill for this dream to be alive today?
Well, I had to force myself not to stall on anything. And one thing that I did, which I am super proud of, and I'm really happy I did that, was I did everything on my own. All the initial planning and thought processes and dotting on my I's and my T's, even my husband didn't know. Because I decided, I spoke to myself and I was like, you know what, for this to come out exactly like I want it to come out, and for me to realize the dream, which is actually a dream of mine, I would have to sit back and draft this thing and make it exactly, or patent it exactly like I want it to be, because I want it to be me. I don't want it to have any influence. I don't want it to have anybody else's thought process. We can have all that later after I've come up with the initial idea. And that's what I did. I structured everything. I did everything well. The only time he knew about it was after I'd already completed everything. I said, hey, by the way, I did that. And I was like, okay. He didn't know how serious it was. And when he first got wind of it was when I actually got in my first sample of the actual product. And
Right,
he literally thought it was a joke. I was like, well,
right.
so the main thing that I struggled with was forcing myself not to let anything stall me. You know what I mean? Most of the time, finances would, but you try to say, okay, I'm going to find ways around this thing. I'm going to maybe save for a while. I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to really discipline myself because I really have to get this done on this date. If and I'm not a date, well, I'm good at dates, but I try to be realistic. So when I give myself a deadline, I always give a second deadline, just like an alarm clock where you set up an alarm for a time and you add 10 minutes to it because you need 10 minutes to kind of get you up, and then
Right.
10 minutes later to really wake you up. So that's what I did. And funny enough, the first time, so I'm glad I did two dates. The first time I didn't meet the date, and I was glad I had the second one. So when the second time came, I said, no way, there's no excuses. I'm doing it. And I just
Right.
jumped right in. But a lot of people would have that where you would second guess yourself or you would try to push it forward. Like, oh, you know what? I have this other thing to do. I'm going to push it 3 months down the road. 3 months down the road may something may happen, or that a shift can happen where you change your thoughts as far as wanting to do that thing. Whereas if you'd done it when you wanted to do it, which is your dream, it'd be a it'd be scrapped off the list.
Right, right. And a lot of people would stall at this place of excuses and not move forward. But then there are people who would start. There might be somebody listening to us right now who will start, has started, but has encountered a major difficulty, a
Yep.
major setback.
Hmm.
And that sends them back into the hole, never to be out in the light again.
Hmm.
If you can share with us what was a major setback in your business, one of those things that made you say, should I really be doing this?
Hmm.
And how did you come out of that?
COVID was one because I had just started production, like mass production of it, and I just started selling, like really selling. So when COVID hit, it was like, okay, this thing is just starting. I have literally not gone anywhere. And here comes this thing where, which may actually just kill it because for business to work, things have to roll. You have to get in orders, you have to ship out, you have to send in, it has to work. And a lot of things stopped because nobody was moving.
Right.
I'm selling shoes and nobody's going anywhere. We're home.
Right.
So it was very challenging, but thank goodness the sales dropped, which is normal. I mean, I'm sure most businesses experience that. But the best thing that happened was even though my production company was in Italy, my production never stopped.
Hmm.
Reason being, they have a lot of production houses all around Europe. So a lot of things were outsourced. So, some was still in Italy, but I was lucky enough. I was one of the lucky ones who had it good where my production just didn't stop. The sales dropped, but it was it just felt great to know that even if one customer came by and wanted a pair of shoes that they really needed, which I'm not sure why, because it was COVID, but I did have customers who bought then, and I would be able to service that client and actually give them what they needed instead of just because that would have just broken it. You know what it means for somebody to come to you
Right.
knowing that you're open for business and you're telling them, okay, I can't sell to you.
Hmm.
Yes, it's COVID, but not everybody understands that.
Right. Right. So what's the dream? I know we've talked about the journey and where you are, having survived the major, what could have been setback.
Mhm.
What's the dream for your collection, for the shoe collection?
The dream is getting into mainstream, which I'm
Hmm.
actually working on. Getting into mainstream, getting to stores, um, and expanding a little more because I've gotten a lot of feedback from lots of my client base demanding accessories. So I might be, well, it's not even a might. I'm already working on that. We're going to delve into that probably soon. I'm not going to tie myself to a date, but it's coming. Triple pieces accessories is on the way. But yeah,
Mm.
that's where I'm headed. So getting into mainstream, which is particularly getting in department stores and expanding the brand.
So I was trying to pull up the website so that people who are hearing about your business for the first time will be able to find it. So let's I think I have it here. So those who are interested and would love to get a pair for yourself or a friend, it's triplepieces.com, and you can see there's quite a number of lovely shoes on here.
That makes me
This is
smile every time I look at that.
uh, that's amazing. This is really great work, and definitely applaud you. What I applaud really is the courage to do something that has not been done, irrespective of the excuses. One thing we should know, and I think about it all the time, that the excuse that you give for not doing what's in your heart to do, someone else is trashing that excuse and moving forward to create a difference in their life. So you have to make your mind up, and this is to the audience. You have
Yeah.
to make up your mind to push aside your excuses, even if it means taking things one step at a time.
Hmm.
Guys, coming life like this was something that I never thought I could do.
Hmm.
For the longest
Yeah.
time, life had been a function on Facebook, and I just was not going to go live. I didn't think that I could do it. But then
Mhm.
push came to shove, the pandemic, and here we are. And glad that that's happening. Rachel, let's talk about marriage and
Mhm.
as an immigrant. I love
Yes.
the pictures. I love what I see, but there's what I don't see. And
Yeah.
because I asked you specifically if there's anything off the hook, and you said no. So
I know.
tell me.
Open book. I'm good.
what keeps the sauce in the marriage, especially for immigrants? There's a lot of divorce. Let's be candid and honest.
Mhm.
But what keeps
Mhm.
the spice for you? And what do you think is your secret?
Well, you got to remember that um, you met this human being who is not a part of your family, and who, whether you like it or not, some people, yes, me and my husband met ourselves, we loved ourselves, but it doesn't change the fact that each of us had to woo each other, to really want each other. So a lot of people let go of that once they actually get together and get married, and everybody gets all comfy, and it's like, okay, we're married, we live together. What else is new?
Mhm.
Well, there is something new. You have to keep things alive. Like for the longest time, I believe I didn't technically fit in the married woman category like we stay in Africa. Well, Africans do.
That's a
Because
topic for
I was
another day
raised
because
in
I
that.
don't know why you didn't fit, but okay, let's
Well,
go.
to people, to me, I was great. I
Okay.
was an excellent wife. But the African mentality, believe it or not, we may refuse or not, but it's happening.
Mhm.
Where once you're married, you're supposed to present a certain persona, which most of the time is different from who you've been all your life.
Right.
Like someone like me, I've always been a free spirited person. If you ask my members of my family, to tell you I'm like the spice of the family
Mhm.
you know so I can't all of a sudden marry somebody and the world is expecting me to be dressed a certain way. I have to automatically become an introvert because I'm somebody's wife. That
Mhm.
didn't fly.
Right.
And good enough, not most some people are not lucky to find partners who actually understand, and in those cases most of them may end in a divorce. But I was lucky enough to find somebody who understood how that worked. They were open minded, just like he's open minded, just like I am.
Yeah.
He's very free spirited, and me being me didn't bother him
Right.
because it's a plus. Why would you want your wife to be someone else other than what you loved when you saw them?
Right.
And that's what I try to maintain throughout the relationship. I'm the girl who would dress up, and it's funny. My husband does the same thing. Believe it, this is not for TV or anything. I'll dress up to go out, and when sometimes he'll do the same. And he's like, "Hey, babe, how your master look or how your woman look?" We do those things. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And obviously they look good, so that keeps it up. And
Right.
even if he's not going with me, or even if I'm not going with him, the fact that I'm leaving home looking all fly, or he's leaving home looking all fly, you're getting yourself in order the next time you're going out. That's
Right.
how it is. You have to keep it up. You have to do little things, and it's not only that. Obviously, some people might say, "Oh, marriage is not all about looking good." Of course, but
Mhm.
that's an intricate part of it because whether you like it or not, you loved the guy or the guy loved the woman at the beginning, and that was a factor in them
Right.
getting together. You need to see somebody you like to want to talk to them. You know what I mean? And you can't live your
Absolutely.
whole life with someone else who doesn't look like that person you liked, who you asked to date. That's just the reality of it. And I keep that in my head every single day. And I've kept it all through the marriage. And for me, it's worked out great today. So,
Mhm. Mhm. So keeping the spice and making sure that you're not just throwing, you're just not saying, "Well, I'm married and that's it. We live together," but to keep
mhm,
on the friendship, to keep on the
mhm,
fire, to keep
mhm,
on the personal growth. And I'm happy that you raised that because the next question is to you: what are you doing for personal growth? And just what are you working on for yourself? That you can share with us because
mhm,
people need to know that growth is necessary if we're going to thrive.
mhm,
There is no accidental growth.
mhm.
So, how are you
Yep.
intentional about your growth?
I am very intentional about my growth. I get up every day. I get up and people see me on Facebook. I look like the party girl, but my head is thinking. Every day I get up, I'm doing something. And currently, I try to enhance my private life. And a lot of people miss this. You focus on one and stay on one and forget about every other thing. You have to figure out what you are as a person. Not everybody is like me, where I have a job and I have a business and I have a family. you know some people just have one, some people have two of those. Figure out what you have that's yours and what is yours to manage. And in my case, it's all three. So I'm actively always trying to enhance all three of them. I try to enhance my personal family life by making sure my boys comfy. Comfy doesn't necessarily come with a lot. Comfy and happy comes. We like to travel. If you notice, if you're on my page, we're always traveling. That keeps us together. It keeps us happy. It keeps us exploring things that we're not used to. That's just new things. My son comes back. He was like 4, I think 3 when we went to California for the first time with him, and he still remembers it from today. And he tells us, "Oh, I love California. I want to go back." Those things bring up conversations that keep the family together way long after you come back home from traveling. As far as my job, I'm always trying to enhance. I'm currently working on certain enhancements like exams and certifications that I'm working to enhance where I am as of now in my career. Those are things that I do on the back end. As far as my business, I just explained to you, I'm always staying on top of figuring out what else to do, what to add to my collection, how to fine tune it, things that I need to do to get my customers engaged and things like that. So I'm trying always actively enhancing every single facet of my life as a person. And I urge everybody else to try to do that. Just don't focus on one thing, or maybe focus on the thing that's thriving at the moment in your life. Focus on every single one, because all of them form you. And if
Right.
you fix one and you don't fix the other, trust me, it's not going to work in the long run.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that and just listening and learning, because when there's a guest on the Immigrant Mom show, I learn myself. I'm thinking to myself, as a parent in a new country, we constantly have to think about new ways, not how our parents parented. Because think about it, how many times in Cameroon did my mom and dad put me in a car to travel to Betwa to
Mhm.
have a family time for us to be bonded? And maybe that was not my experience, but it's different now because we could drive to Houston with the kids, for example. We could drive somewhere else. I'm just using the example you gave, like you took Blue
Mhm.
and you guys went to California, and that keeps the family together.
Yep.
Maybe growing up, that might not have been your experience. But if you
Mhm.
were stuck up on just parenting this child the way you grew up,
Mhm.
so much will be different.
Yes, definitely. I just love the fact that coming out here has exposed me. A lot of people see a lot of negative sides to it, which there are obviously, but I always try to look at the positive and things that I can get out of everything that America has to offer. And in this case, I've understood how kids here, I mean, I'm still trying to understand it. I'm not there yet, but I sort of have an idea on how they process and how they think. And it's like a 360 degree from how we were brought up. So I feel like it's my duty to try as much as I can to assume their thought processes as far as kids who grew up here. And obviously try to incorporate most of ours because we had really grounded traditions that groomed us to how we are today, which I really appreciate. I try to still instill those things in my kid, but I give him room to kind of go a little bit with the system that he was born in. And a
Mhm.
lot of parents have come to know, including my husband. My husband's a very traditional dad. You know, though he tries to maintain the African way, and we'll have clashes there because I'm very flexible. I don't know if it's just I'm very open minded and very free spirited, and I always like to give the child a chance to either talk or express how they're feeling for me to really understand them before I can actually address the issue or
Right.
get into discipline and all of that. But most African parents, and I insist on that 3 times because it happens a lot and I've seen it happen a lot, the child has no voice.
Mhm.
And to me, I'm saying to myself, we went through that because in Africa
Right.
you didn't have voice as a child. Why are we carrying this over? There are a lot of other,
Right.
there are a lot more better things we can instill in our children, which we got, like getting up in the morning or Sunday mornings, we go to church, going to church traditions, things like that. But we have to force ourselves as immigrant parents to understand the children born here. We're
Yeah.
not allowing them to fly because obviously there are
Right.
a lot of things wrong here as
And that
well.
is the fear. That right there is
Yes.
the fear. Yes.
Mhm. We're not allowing them to fly, but at least give your child a chance to speak or give them a chance to express themselves enough to you to understand how they think, or maybe if they do something bad, give them a chance to explain because kids are kids. They'll always explain just as it is.
Yeah.
And when you give them the chance to explain and kind of outline everything as far as what happened, whatever it is at the moment, you will pick up one or two things as a grown up, and it'll help you figure out how to address the issue. But if you address it just with emotions right off the bat, like, oh, I'm gonna, oh, I'm just, like a typical African parent, then you're stopping yourself from even getting a chance to understand the child. And I try to I've had moments where I want to be the African mom, but I've literally talked to myself to force myself to stop, give him a chance to explain himself. You
Right.
still discipline the child. You're just giving a moment to give him a chance to talk. That's all.
Right, right. No, very powerful. And we're learning as we go to catch ourselves in that moment and say, allow for the child to speak, because a child is silenced not over one incident of,
Mhm,
shutting the child off. It's repeated
mhm,
instances, and we have to catch ourselves. And also
mhm,
just hearing everything that you shared today, one thing that I take with me that I hope someone else has caught it too is, let your child experience the world.
yep, mhm,
Experiencing the world back then was for the rich folk, was for those that had a different, more than middle class upbringing. Some middle
mhm,
class people were able to leave their children out,
mhm,
not leave out, but to allow them to experience the world outside their four walls. I had my hair done today. My hairdresser was talking to me about the different classes she has enrolled her children in, the
mhm,
Fort Worth Zoo. She was talking about different things. And I'm thinking to
yep,
myself, we have available these resources.
yep,
Your kid cannot just be going to school and be home the entire time, January to December,
mhm,
and because that was how you were raised, and they're missing out. Like, they go back into the classroom and people are talking about their encounters in Disney World and different places. You don't have to go to Disney, but we must remember that
mhm.
we're raising children in a culture that is different from the one we grew up in. And that is my takeaway from you, that we should let them be exposed to have as many experiences as are possible.
Yep, you get
Eh,
it. And to add to that, it doesn't necessarily you said it right. It doesn't have to be Disney. We take in town vacations all the time.
mhm.
Just go out for a day. It doesn't even have to be the whole weekend. Get outside of the box. Get
Right.
you and your family. Get something downtown. We've done it where we go downtown, get a place downtown for a day or two, and explore downtown. There are lots of museums, a lot of aquatic places. Just spend time outside of your comfort zone. It's very healthy. And little things like that don't necessarily come with a price tag. It's just little time. You don't even need to spend a night out. You can just go out and spend a day out of your comfort zone and do fun things with family. It takes everybody's mind away from the everyday pressures of life. It takes the parents' minds off the bills. It takes the kids' minds off of school, and they have time to spend with their parents without necessarily having to deal with the four walls of their house, which
Mm,
obviously comes with a lot. So,
right. We are 7 minutes over time, but we
oh,
started a little late,
I'm
and
enjoying the conversation. Can you tell?
and we had a technical difficulty. But there's one question that I want to ask before
Mhm,
asking you for your parting words of wisdom.
mhm.
You mentioned about something people don't know about you, but I want to ask a more specific question. What
Sure.
is the misconception that people have of you?
I look like the typical girl who just, and it was just flash. And that's not the case. And I love it because I always tell people I actually like it to be that way because I want the people who actually know me to be people I actually truly care about.
Hmm.
So the inner circle knows me as a whole nother person from what the go-lucky, happy party Rachel is, which is great. That's good for business, but you always have to have self, and
Right.
that's usually the general misconception I get a lot.
And you have this persona where you're like, well, I am me. There are people who would think whatever they think. I'll
Mhm.
just keep moving forward.
Yep,
My inner
that's
circle knows me.
that's what keeps me going because I've realized in life, good, bad, ugly, whatever you do, somebody's always gonna have an opinion. So you just do
Yeah.
what you think is best for you. That's the best way to live.
Parting words of wisdom.
Parting words of wisdom. Ah, stay in your lane, do what you love, stay with what you love. Don't get influenced. Good influence is always good, but still maintain what you want to do as a person. That's what I tell anybody out here.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this time. Whenever we get on here, the time just goes by so
It
fast.
did.
But we had a great time and I learned. I'm hoping that everybody who joined us today learned a thing or two. I
Mhm.
always tell the story of a time when I lived in South Korea and it was the hot summer. Like summers are crazy in Korea, almost like Texas
Wow.
summer. And there
Mhm.
was a little box in my room that I didn't know what it was. Because again, when you live in a country that you don't speak the language, you're
Mhm.
going to be walking in oblivion most of the time, right?
Wow.
So there was that little box in my room that I didn't know what it was. I had bought a little AC kind of thing, put ice in it. It was so hot and uncomfortable. I even lifted up my bed to my wall just so I could have some air.
Wow.
I walked into someone's room almost at the end of summer and it was so cool. And I looked around and I was looking for the device that was powering that cool air in that room and I couldn't find it. And I was like, why is your room this cool? And he looked at me like, that's the AC. And I said, wait, what? The entire summer, the entire summer, I had something. I think
Yep.
about the story all the time, and I say that you cannot act on what you don't know.
Mhm.
Everybody ought to be on their toes about what they should know for their
Mhm.
current situation and where they want to be. For the
Mhm.
entire summer, I was living in that heat, but I had an AC in my room and I just didn't know and I didn't ask.
Mhm.
And that taught me such a powerful lesson
Yep.
about knowledge and
Mhm.
why we must put ourselves into environments and communities where we can learn. I know what I have learned today from your story, and I'm hoping that other people have learned a little bit. So thank you so much.
Yep.
And I would just wait for me so I can close out the show. So, guys, that was Rachel's story. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. And we're going to be back in 2 Thursdays to talk about another immigrant mom story. I appreciate your presence. Hope you're keeping safe. The weather is beginning to get cold out here in the US. So keep warm. And until next 2 Thursdays, God bless you. Have a great weekend, guys.